Cecil Global and African Diaspora News Channel presents the Ghana Luxury Property Tour. It will be a 8-day tour coming to you starting October 1 through October 8, 2023. Now, you enjoy a 5-star stay at a hotel, the finest properties in Ghana. You connect with industry professionals. You will also visit cultural landmarks, have a meet and greet with the team, and so much more. Make sure that you go to the description box below and hit that link to sign up. There was brothers and sisters during the time of apartheid in South Africa that was lost a lot of their homes and land, and it was just completely atrocious what happened to our brothers and sisters in South Africa. And don't let them forget that history, brothers and sisters who could be watching. Don't throw that away. Don't say we move past this, because I'm telling you, as your brother, when I went to South Africa, one of the most disappointing things I ever heard in my life was two things: that they still own majority of the land. It's not in the hands of black people like that. And when I was told, well, this is a black owned business over here, and I was so floored to hear that, because in America, that's one thing. But to hear that in the African nation, that really floored me and kind of saddened me that my brothers and sisters, even though they are, a little bit 25 years, past apartheid, they still dealing with the remnants of that. No different than we still dealing with the remnants of slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, segregation, etc. So a brother by the name of Broadhurst Kona, he was 18 when he and his family was forcibly removed under the Apartheid's Group Areas Act from their home in Luyolo location, Simonstown, in January 1966. The brother say it was the end of the world for us. He said we never even knew where we were going. Each day, about 20 black families with all their belongings they could fit were moved by truck. Kona and his family were one of the last to lose their homes. The trucks took them from the slopes of Simonstown overlooking the sea to a barren street in Gugulethu. They say where the families were provided with small 2-bedroom houses. Many of the Luyolo community and their descendants will stay in these houses. Now, nearly 60 years later, the brother, who is 75 years old, is said to be a beneficiary of the Yololo land restitution claim, which forms part of the Dido Valley housing project behind Anchor Bay Mall in Simonstown. They said the housing project will have 600 units, 500 for residents from the Red Hill informal settlement, and 100 for the Luyolo land claimants. I say may co-member, for human settlements, may Lucy Bowie. If I'm saying it right, please forgive me, y'all. South Africa, some of these names is kind of a little difficult for me at times. But as I keep going, I'm going to learn y'all names, so forgive me. So that all goes well is according to the plan. And say the first units should be handed over to the Luyolo claimants in March or April of this year. The first 33 Red Hill units have already been completed and will be handed over once electrification is done. They say Luyolo was a small, vibrant township formed on the mountain slopes at Simonstown in 1901 by laborers brought from the Eastern Cape to work on extending the rail line, they say, from Cog Bay to Simonstown. They say after the railroad was completed, many workers remained and found work at the dockyard in Simonstown Naval Base. Say at the time, they say the forced removals, Loyolo had about 1,500 predominantly African residents. Languisa Samlada is the secretary of Luyolo Land Restitution Committee, and say was born 2 years after her parents were forcibly removed from Luyolo in 1965. She says that they were forced to relocate but couldn't leave their jobs as they had to put food on the table. They say her father continued working at the naval dockyard, waking up at 4 a.m. to take a bus to Simonstown. They say she grew up hearing the stories of Luyolo community life. See, white supremacists, ladies and gentlemen, I told you, are the same everywhere they go. The history is the same. Running black people off their land, no different than what they did here in America. What they did here in America is mirror what they did in South Africa and anywhere else that they were colonizing. Now, they say the community, they say, has lived up to being one big family. They said no one would go to bed on an empty stomach. They said there was self-reliance. People would go and fish. It said the brother Kona said that he grew up next to the sea as a young child and fell in love with the long distance swimming. He said, however, after being forcibly removed, he said, from his home, he said he had nowhere close to go and swim. He said later I started going to Camps Bay. He said, well, I joined some of the long distance sea swimmers. He said the brother said he started playing rugby and got picked up by a local club, the Flying Eagles, in the Yanga in the 1970s, and he started his professional rugby career. So he would go on to play for the Leopards. It's a black rugby team during the Apartheid under the South African Rugby Board against France, and he played abroad in Italy. He said at the same time, he said he was working night shifts as a laborer. He said before I slept, I had to go to the train alone. He said because I couldn't go to the main practice, so I had no teamwork. He said only 1 week. He said about also in a month. He said I had time for teamwork. So I nearly quit because it was so taxing on me. I mean, this is the things our brothers and sisters had to deal with in South Africa. This is why, we have a great kinship with our brothers and sisters in South Africa, because we know, how the white supremacists have gotten down. They've done the exact same things. Even when I went to the Hector Peterson Museum and I saw all the evil things that the white supremacists was doing to those brothers and sisters at that time period, young kids standing up and fighting the white supremacists because they wanted freedom and they wanted justice. This is why I would tell, South Africa that y'all need to do even what Ghana has done, like a year return and something to that effect. Because if anything, we relate a lot more due to the history. Talking about South Africans and Black Americans, for sure. I think that could really be a good thing, because Ghana is doing very well at a lot of that, and they had a good, definitely marketing and PR strategy with that. But South Africa, you definitely have the infrastructure to make something like that happen, and plan it. Shoot. A lot of Black Americans would love to even be involved with that. Shoot, you ask me to be involved, I'll be involved. They say now in the early 1990s, they say Kona was listening to the radio, say when a government official outlined the process for instituting a land claim. So Kona then went and met with an official in Athlone. He said, down every detail in the meeting, and then I campaigned in our community for Loyola descendants to come and claim. He said, I called a meeting, and fortunately, the community came in droves. He said, however, after the initial period of excitement and hope, bureaucracy started dragging out the process. They said, you can come back to the Department of Land Affairs after there's a new commissioner, and a new one won't start. They said, where the other one left off. He said he would do his own thing. They said another major obstacle was, they said, how to deal with the issue of financial compensation, reparations. And I always said that reparations should be paid to every person that has dealt with white supremacist terrorism. They say land claimants, they say, are given, they say, the choice of taking a set amount as a form of compensation, or they can choose to follow the land restitution process. In the early 2000s, there was a debate in the community about which to pursue, compensation or land. I say get both. Now, they say the people were so disillusioned, they thought they would never go back, and there was a pipe dream. They say we tried to convince them and say that taking the money was not worth it. It was peanuts. It was about 22,000 Rand, which is about $1,200 at the time. And say, they used money as a weapon, and that's, where we lost. Now, he said it was a disaster for us. So he said a total of 773 Loyola land claimants have chosen financial compensation since 1998. It said only about 130 chose land over financial compensation. The land restitution project slowly gained momentum and is now nearing completion. However, the brother said he had mixed feelings about that. He said he was excited and happy because he could see progress, and he's happy to go back to his homeland. Of course, he said they were forcibly removed from. He said now we have a claim. He said, are we going back? He said, but the excitement, he said, is gone with the situation. Because the brother's 75 years old. So what I'm trying to tell y'all with this story is this. The white supremacist is a thief. He's a thief. He don't respect laws, but he put laws on the books. He don't honor anything. He just do whatever that he would like to do. And he don't want you talking about this history. This is why, brothers and sisters in South Africa, you need to be talking about the history all the time. Talk about apartheid. Talk about why the country is where it's at today. Talk about the land that's being owned by the white supremacists today and how they got that land. And who's the sellouts that's out here helping them keep the land and all of that. Call them out. Call all of them out. Because these people should not be in your homeland today owning a thing. That's the only mistake I feel that was made with our brother Nelson Mandela, is that he needed to get them white supremacists out of South Africa, put a law and say they can't own anything, because they owned everything anyway. So why do you allow them to continue to own anything? No. Because as long as they can hold the land, then they have control and power over things, and they have control in the economy, etc. But let me know what y'all think about, what happened to our brothers and sisters, in that time period, being forcibly taken from their homes and just given some other place that's not even, what he had, so the white folks can come in and take over their land. That's just so familiar.